Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld again, and in today's episode of Boot Camp, we're actually going to take a look at communication in Insurgency Sandstorm. Because far more than in a lot of other shooters, the 3D audio engine in this game is very deep, and it's something that you'll really need to understand if you want to become a top-level player. Obviously, comms in any hardcore shooter is essential, but in Sandstorm, with almost no help from the HUD when it comes to spotting enemy players, every sound you make can get you killed. And so today, I'm going to run you guys through the strengths and weaknesses of all the comm systems in-game, and how sometimes the sounds you don't make can be more important than the ones that you do. Alright, so to kick off, the most basic way of communicating in Sandstorm is the text chat up in the left-hand corner, which is a pretty standard feature in most multiplayer games these days. And by far, this is probably the least effective method of communication because obviously when you need to type a message, you'll need to take your hands off your controls, and that could get you killed. Also, it requires that your teammates are paying attention to the text chat box, which can be a dangerous distraction if you're in close proximity to enemy players. But in saying that, the big benefit of text chat is the ability to broadcast to only your team or to all players, which, as we'll find out later on, means it's probably the only true secure method of communication available in the game. Now, beyond text chat is the comms menu, which is a wheel of preset comms options you can select very quickly on the fly. And as you can see, not only does this broadcast a text message to your team in the chat, it also causes your character to speak in-game, which is actually something that enemy players can hear. Another thing you'll want to watch out for if you're playing as a commander is when you use the fire support menu, because when you trigger it with the binoculars, it'll cause you and the observer to speak in-game, just like they would if you were using the comms menu. And also, just on a side note about the comms menu, although it doesn't have any tactical impact in-game, another interesting thing you might want to experiment with is using the intimidate option or using it while suppressed, because as you'll notice, your character actually says different things depending on the situation. Now, just before we get on to the VoIP options, let's just go back and clarify a few points that are really important about audio in general in Insurgency Sandstorm. And that's first and foremost that just about every sound you make can be heard by enemy players, including sounds that you don't realize you're making, like, for example, footsteps. The only thing that doesn't broadcast to enemies are automatic responses that players don't have any control over, like, for example, when your character yells out that they're reloading. But in saying that, something that seems like it's an involuntary response is coughing when you run through smoke. But technically, as you can control that by using the gas mask, enemies can hear that in-game. Also, some other things that are really important to remember about audio in Sandstorm is that all sounds are directional and many sounds are faction-based, like the sound of player voices and the sound of gunshots. And that can be really important because, for example, most experienced players will be able to tell whether gunfire is friendly or hostile just by the sound, and so you may want to consider using a suppressor attachment to disguise and lower the volume of your gun. Also, another dead giveaway that an enemy is nearby if you're playing as the insurgents is if you hear a female character voice, because currently there's no female characters available to the insurgent team. But at the end of the day though, although you do want to keep them in mind, it's not really these faction-based sounds that you want to worry about the most. It's all of the little sounds like footsteps, reloading, breaking glass and opening doors, because they're all directional and they'll all tell the enemy roughly where you are. So now that you've got an understanding of those basic mechanics, let's get on to your bread and butter communication methods in Sandstorm, which are Team VoIP, which broadcasts by radio across the map, and proximity VoIP, which is the same as shouting in the 3D world. And in a nutshell, these are easily the most direct and effective way of getting a message quickly through to your teammates, but they're also the least secure as well. Just like with the comms menu, if enemy players are close enough, they can hear exactly what you're saying. And like I've said before, enemies can use this to determine your rough position. And so, as a rule of thumb, when you're in a hostile area, make sure you keep your comms to a minimum, or at the very least, equip a gas mask, because not only will they stop you from coughing, they'll also reduce the volume of your voice in the 3D world. One way that you can use proximity VoIP and the 3D audio system to your advantage, though, is to use it instead of team radio to signal teammates to your local position. because often it's easier just to yell out something like, "I'm over here," in proximity VoIP than it is to try and explain in detail where you are to a nearby teammate. Another way you can quickly give directional information to teammates is by using the compass down on the bottom, which can be used in conjunction with the enemy spotted option in the comms menu to send out a bearing that all friendlies can see. And also just remember, along with the compass, another very useful tool that will help you with directing your squad mates is the tactical map, which not only shows the position of friendly forces, but also has grid references that you can call out over VoIP. But anyway, guys, that's just about all of the communications methods in Sandstorm and their pros and cons covered. So hopefully this video helps you improve your teamwork in-game. And on that note, if you want some more tips for Sandstorm, well, make sure you stay tuned to this channel for more bootcamp videos coming very soon. And until then, see you later and have a good one.